Welcome to the Girl at a Bar podcast. I'm Tracy Mulholland. My guests went out to a bar alone, had to stay for 90 minutes minimum, and couldn't look at their phone. We talk about their night and how they can use this experience to get out of their comfort zone in other ways. I love your pictures in the background. Is that Long Beach, California, and what else?
Yeah, we have a number of vintage travel posters around, and this selection is Palm Springs, California with a giant redwood, and then, I got a Long Beach one when we moved down here.
Yes, and I'm talking to Katherine, who lives in Long Beach and is a good friend, and we've known each other for a while now through my sister originally, and then we've become close being here in LA together. And anyone who's seen the show yet, the church is a very pivotal scene in the Girl at a Bar show. And you were very pivotal in getting the introduction for us to film there. So I thank you so much for that. So you were already a part of like the Girl at a Bar world because of that. And I'm so glad you wanted to come join the podcast.
Well, thank you. And I'll throw in that the church has been pivotal for me too, because it's where I met the man I married.
You guys are such a lovely couple. So, well, since you were kind of already in the world, what made you want to do the podcast portion, to accept this adventure?
I just love the concept first and foremost. I'm always curious about people and human behavior and kind of that chemical experiment. And so when I heard you were doing this, I thought, this would be a fun thing to try and to get to debrief with you about it. And I'm so curious to hear about other people's experience with it too.
Yes.
So I'll be a listener to your podcast in addition to a guest.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember talking to you about it in Long Beach a while back, and I'm so glad that it actually happened. So tell me where you chose to go? Was it in Long Beach? I saw one photo, and that's all I know right now.
Yes, I gave it a lot of thought about where I wanted to go. For anyone who knows Long Beach, there's a popular section in Belmont Shore on 2nd Street full of different bars and restaurants. And so I selected a restaurant called Nick's. They have a pretty nice, it's a classy place. It's a lovely bar. It's right on a corner. There's lots of windows. So, there's people watching and that sort of thing. So I went with Nick's on a Friday evening, kind of happy hour time.
Ooh, that's a bold choice though. That's, an opportunity for a lot of things to happen on a Friday. I feel like.
Yes. I have to tell you something funny. I teach jazzercise for fun on the side. And leading up to this, I had told my jazzercise class that I was going to do this. And one of them asked me, "Are you going to wear your wedding ring?" So funny. I'm like, yes, I am not trying to put on some sort of alter ego and get hit on. Like, that's not the objective here. I just thought that was the funniest question.
That is. I don't think I've ever heard anyone ask that for myself going out or other people going out. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely want people to go as they are. It's not
that's right.
Something different than who you are.
Right.
Okay. What else did they say? Were they excited for you?
Yes. Well, and this is also when I was trying to get advice about where to do it, what type of place, should I do a happy hour, not a happy hour, because bars are so different in their setup. Some are more conducive to conversation. Some you might all be oriented at a TV or out at a view, and then versus others. Like the bar I was at was actually kind of a U-shape situation with the bartenders in the middle. So
perfect.
Kind of almost theatrical, if you will, because I can watch the bartenders doing their thing. I can watch other people. There was a TV at one end, and then there were windows at the other end. And I was, as a little nervous about 90 minutes of no phone, no book, nothing to entertain myself. So I was like, okay, I want to make sure there's at least some things I can watch and hopefully not look creepy.
Right. I'm sure you would never look creepy. But you did, yes. You texted me before, and I know that the book part and the no phone part was making you have some nerves. How did you feel the moment you walked into the bar? Where were you at?
Super nervous up until I finally found my spot and got my drink and realized it was all going to be okay. And, I was nervous leading up to it. I was nervous the morning I woke up, and I was really trying to examine what am I nervous about? Right. And I thought back to a trip to Hawaii, which is amazing, and my first surf lesson. And I remember also feeling really, really nervous and trying to examine, like, what am I nervous about? I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of like getting bit by a shark or a jellyfish or drowning or anything. And then I realized I'm afraid I won't like it. I'm afraid I will have invested all this time and energy and it won't go well. And I realized that maybe I was nervous about that too, that like this would all be a big mess. And then like, I'm a terrible guest on your podcast and I've wasted all this time, right? That like, what if it goes terribly and it's a dud, or I'm awkward, or, all the things. So I think that's what I was nervous about. Sometimes it helps just figuring out like, what is this coming from? Right.
Well, yeah, naming the feeling and
Yeah.
then kind of diving in and digesting why it's happening. And I've said this before, but any experience is welcome here, good, bad, all around.
That's true.
But you are such an insightful person. And I love that you took that time to check in with yourself and see maybe what was going on.
Thanks.
Yeah. So what did you drink? And what was your bartender like? What was the first moments?
Yes. The bartender was great. I always like to ask, is there anything special here? Anything you really enjoy making? And he told me about like a cocktail contest he had competed in, and he made up something called an Orange Bay. I did eventually have the Orange Bay, but I started with the jalapeno watermelon margarita, which was an excellent choice.
Spicy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I seated myself very intentionally. Fortunately, it wasn't like the bar was packed. I did a 4:30 to 6 p.m. window. So, some people had started their happy hour, but it wasn't at like full swing. And that was also partly because I wanted a seat at the bar, right? So there were still some seats open, and I kind of positioned myself where there was room between me and a kind of another clump, a group of people. And they ended up, as more people arrived, scooting down and sitting next to me. And we'll get into it more, but they were a really friendly group. So nice. That was great.
Spoiler alert, is that the group that you sent me a photo of?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
I totally made friends.
I love that. I was so excited to see that photo. Well, yeah, we can get into it. So what ended up happening?
I wanted to be friendly without being creepy, right? So I'm obviously overhearing the group next to me, but I don't want to like try to insert myself in their conversation. So just occasionally, if they might be making a joke or toasting something, I might like smile and nod, right? Like I don't want to act completely antisocial, but I also didn't want them to feel like I was inserting myself. But a few of them, I think, had started with lunch at Nick's. And so they had been there for some time, enjoying their afternoon. So they were already in an extremely friendly and hospitable state, which was wonderful. I'm trying to remember how the conversation first started, and apologies, I don't, but the awesome woman that sat next to me was so friendly. And I remember learning that they had grown children. I think their youngest is in their 20s. And so I just toasted her from like, way to like launch 3 humans into the world. And so when her husband came over, she was like, she just toasted us for launching 3 children. It was really cute. And they had all gone to high school together in Long Beach and were all friends from high school, which I thought was so fun.
Yeah. That is a really important toast, because it is hard to launch children and care for them for
right?
decades.
Right? Very impressive to me. Also is a huge football fan. And so when she learned that for undergrad I'd gone to the University of Oklahoma, she got really excited, because I guess years ago she had gone to, I think, the Rose Bowl, and OU happened to be playing. And she met a bunch of the friendly OU fans and decided OU fans are great, and OU had a great team. And so she became an OU fan from that experience. So then she wants to talk to me about Oklahoma football, which I don't know that much about. Right. It was really funny to me. I'm like, I'm the alum and you are way more of an expert on things. So that was also fun too.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did it feel not having the book anymore? You were obviously in the throes of conversation. So were you feeling comfortable?
As we all know, it's true that sometimes as you have a little bit more of the cocktail, it gives you a little bit more of, as people say, the liquid confidence. So that also was helping, right? The friendliness of the group. And then as I'm having a little bit of my drink. I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying myself. It's good.
How long did you end up spending with them since you were really friendly and chatting for a while?
Yeah. So they, like I said, they had another friend arrive. So it ended up being 5 people in all in their group. And I had already made arrangements to meet my friend Kelly at 6 o'clock for happy hour. And I was like, why don't you come meet me at Nick's? We can either stay or go somewhere else.
Yep.
So when Kelly arrives at the end of my 90 minutes, their group is still going there. And so again, Kelly then gets pulled into the fold and is meeting them, and it's so friendly. And again, like, I feel like, especially in Long Beach, there's a lot of, it's such a wonderful community, and a lot of the people that have lived in the neighborhood a long time, they all know each other. So I was like, you must know Kelly. And it's sure enough, like,
Did
Kelly
they?
knew one of their wives, like, not directly, but they had a lot of shared connections that they were able to talk about. So eventually the gals left, but some of the husbands stayed. And I had connected with one of them on Facebook, and what was really fun, and Kelly and I decided to stay and have a drink in our dinner there at the bar. But what I thought was also kind of funny is when the husbands finally left, one of them left their glasses. And so I was able to get on Facebook Messenger and message the wife.
Oh, yeah.
And then she called her husband, and so then he comes back and gets his glasses. And so I'm like, I love technology too. Because again, by that point in time, it was after 6 p.m. And so I was allowed to use my phone.
Allowed, yes.
Right. I'm trying to follow the rules, the girl at a bar rules.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You saved the day.
Well, I also think that they frequent Nick's, so they probably could have still gotten his glasses later, but all good. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. I know that you were looking to move to Long Beach forever, and now you're there. And the community aspect, was that important to you that you saw in this bar and just in general?
Yes. It was really, really nice. And in fact, one of the ideas I had after this experience was, what if, my husband's name is Jason, what if he and I both go to different bars simultaneously by ourselves to see, because, you're so much more likely to meet people when you are by yourself versus closed in a couple, right? And then whichever one of us is actually having a better time in meeting people, then kind of text summons the other. Okay, I've met some people, come on in and let's do this, right? I think that would be kind of a fun way to take this.
Totally. You just invented it right now. It's like Girl to Bar 2.0, couples opposite reconvene.
I will say it has inspired Jason a little bit, which I love, because he's not quite as social. He's a huge baseball fan, and I think baseball's okay, but it's not how I want to spend my discretionary time. Baseball games can be quite long, and so I have a lot of interests. So sometimes he'll go to a game by himself, not frequently, but he loves it that much, and I think it's great. Sometimes I'll go to the movies by myself. I think it's great to have things you enjoy by yourself. But anyway, it was after I had done this girl at a bar experience, and I told him how, I really think there's something to it when you show up by yourself and open yourself up to meeting people and just be willing to start conversation. And so he started some conversation with people at the baseball game when he was by himself, which he had never done before. And he ended up meeting the father of one of the players. Getting his whole life story, was so friendly. He met a few different people, which I thought was great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I like that. He'd never done that before. He'd never talked to strangers, and this was inspiring.
No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. So look at what you got going on, Tracy. You're starting to change social dynamics, and for the better.
Changing lives. Yes.
I love it. One bar at a time.
Exactly. Ooh, I'm going to use that as the new tagline. Okay, so you kind of already answered this, but anything that you learned new about the world, or anything that you learned about Long Beach or yourself?
I guess I've alluded to this a little bit already, but I do think we open ourselves up more to noticing things in the world, noticing other people, caring about other people when we are not kind of closed in our own conversation or click or phone. When you shut off those common distractions and kind of open yourself up to what's around you, it can really lead to spontaneous, wonderful things. I think I may have mentioned to you that earlier this year, I had both a wedding and a funeral that I ended up traveling to by myself. And that was partly because we had a senior doggy, special needs doggy, that ended up going to heaven in May. But prior to that, we knew her time was limited. And so Jason is obviously we're both very bonded with our dog, but he's had her, all 15 years of her life and really didn't want to miss a moment. So he ended up not going with me to the wedding and funeral. And I completely support that decision. That was the right decision to make. And again, in traveling by myself, I found myself like at the gate. I ended up like helping this family that needed to find something. And then we were in conversation and connected on LinkedIn and discovered some shared interests and, just things that would not have happened if I had been in conversation with Jason at the gate, right? So there were a couple things like that in traveling by myself, where again, I just notice more and appreciate more of what's around me.
Yeah. Wow. That's really profound. And your doggie was the best.
Oh, thank you. She was. Ginger.
And
Yes.
such a long, long, beautiful life. Well, anything else that we missed from the actual portion of the night out, or is that cap it all?
I jotted down a few notes after the experience because I wasn't sure, how soon we would record, and I didn't want to forget anything. And I wrote down I really enjoy meeting people in this type of setting where it's not like a late night club atmosphere. It's still kind of light out and happy hour. And if I have a drink, it kind of helps. But then I was like, A, it may not be good for my liver if I make it too much of a habit. And B, then I worry about would I have all these friendships that are based on a foundation of just drinking and no other shared thing. So, it's I want there to be girl at a bar, but girl at other places too. And I don't know what those other places are, but the great thing about a bar is it is so much more conducive to, having a conversation with people and seeing where it goes.
That's a really interesting point because I don't go to bars much anymore. And I don't really drink, having had Lyme and coming out of that and managing different things with my digestion and energy levels, that wine only happens occasionally on occasions. So it is a good point. And I think there are people that do go out, of course, to celebrate things, or they're with friends to meet up, or maybe they're just grabbing dinner and they're not drinking. And it totally wasn't a requirement to drink.
That's true.
Yeah. But how do you meet people where you want to also do other things as well that aren't meeting at a bar?
Right.
Yeah. So I chose bars, I think, originally because I knew that they were always open. And I could just be like, it's 11 p.m. or whatever it was at the time. And this is a place where I can go and feel safe and be social.
Yes.
And at the same time, it does, like you were saying earlier, open up for conversation rather than people at tables eating. There's just more opportunity. Even at coffee shops, it's harder because everyone's working.
Totally. Yeah. And I think about, I grew up kind of in the dance studio, and I've continued to take classes, and now I teach jazzercise as well. And whether it's a dance class or a class at the gym or a jazzercise class, yes, I have made friends, and you can make friends doing something like that. But a lot of people are there to work out. They're not there to chitty chat and hang out after and that sort of thing. And so that is the nice thing about a bar, is it's inherently a social place.
So what happens for you once you get home from a night out? Not necessarily even a bar, but just you've gone somewhere and you come inside. What's the routine? What's the ritual?
Oh, I start getting ready for bed.
Yeah.
I mean, I like being social, but I also really like going to bed, and I was tired. And even though I know I did it from 4:30 to 6, again, I stayed out, had dinner with Kelly. We enjoyed ourselves, walked home, and that I was a little bit petered out from all that social time. So I kind of start the wind down process.
What's the most important thing for you to wind down in your bedtime process?
Yeah, this might be TMI, but for a long time, I have struggled with anxiety dreams or nightmares. And I've discovered that the content that I put into my brain right before bed has a huge influence on that. So, for instance, like not watching Law and Order Special Victims Unit really helps a lot. Switching to something like Frasier or right, like something really lighthearted. So sometimes I'll put on a show while I'm going through my getting ready for bed routine, just to like keep things like light and fun, and encourage kind of that levity. And then when I do get into bed, there's often just a kind of some deep breaths and prayers of gratitude for the experience and the day and kind of what God's blessed me with. So that's in the mix too.
Sounds like a nice wind down.
Yeah, Frasier and prayer.
Yeah, for sure. The perfect combo. I think that's so important to actually call out, because I had done a neural brain retraining program after I had done several treatments of Lyme and felt like I wasn't totally where I wanted to be. I did something called brain retraining, and it's based off of different things. There's DNRS and the Gupta method. I worked with someone that had combination and their own thing. But one of the recommendations was at night to make sure you watch a comedy, a half-hour comedy before you go to bed. And it kind of helps the nervous system, especially in that subconscious time of sleep.
I love that. I feel so validated by the research and training that backs that up. Yeah.
There's science there. Yeah. I've struggled with that in times of stress as well, where I've had worse dreams. And then depending on what medicine, if I'm on antibiotics for something, I've noticed I weirdly have very vivid, awful dreams. Well, the final kind of question is, knowing this experience, how can you get out of your comfort zone in a different way in your life moving forward?
Similar to having had a really positive surfing lesson and validating that, like, I liked it and nothing bad happened and it wasn't awkward or creepy or anything else. Knowing that this experience, a girl at a bar, I have more confidence and comfort that I can occasionally start a conversation with someone, test the waters, try to help somebody if I think that at the airport, right? Like, I think I can approach those conversations or interactions with less social anxiety, and knowing that most of the time it's actually going to be okay. And if you get a signal that it's not, it's fine. Then move on to the next person or go back to your book or whatever. But and I think it's just a wonderful reminder to be open and notice things, right? Just not even just people, but notice like the sunset and notice the sounds around you. That doesn't totally answer your question about comfort zone, but
it does.
That's part of like the lessons learned for me from this experience.
I do want to close with this because I know we've bonded over Enneagram.
Yeah.
And if anyone listening to the podcast isn't familiar, it's a personality typing. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, there's a lot of personality typing systems out there that I'm sure people have heard of. This is one of them that's quite ancient, actually, and I feel like it's been having a renaissance.
Oh, yeah. So you're type 4, correct?
That's right.
What do you think is an ideal bar experience for a type 4 Enneagram?
Oh, Tracy, what a good question. That is one that I was not expecting you to ask.
We can take a moment.
Yeah. So let's start with things that are really important to a type 4. Individuality, authenticity, deep, meaningful conversations, a willingness to kind of go deep, even if the topic and material is sad or morose, right? So an ideal experience for a type 4 would be encountering people that are willing to have deep conversations. There's music that brings forth emotion. If there's that kind of music playing, that would definitely be a type 4's jam, I think. 4s often have a great appreciation for the arts, art, music, etc. So if the environment is one in which there is, again, music or art to look at, or artistic people to talk to, musicians to appreciate.
I agree. Artsy, deep conversations, for sure.
Now I'm curious how you would answer the question as a 1, though.
Oh gosh, I was thinking how a 1, which is mine, then when they're in stress, they go to 4. Which is interesting. So if I'm too moody and too into my artistic mind, then that can
Yeah.
be a negative thing. But I actually don't think that's really true for me. I don't feel as in danger of that zone.
Yeah.
So I think that I love leaning more into my 4 when I would go out in a bar.
Good.
Yeah.
I love that. And, again, we're going to go nerdy on the Enneagram. 4s go to 1 in security. We go to 2 in stress, but we go to 1 in security. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for 4s to be mistyped or for there to be some confusion sometimes of am I a 1 or a 4.
And I go to 7 when I'm in my best place, which is the more girl at a bar, actually.
Totally. And for those, again, listening that are unfamiliar, 7 is often the enthusiast or adventurer. So that makes total sense.
And likes the party and the social.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm actually a mix of 4 and 7 when I'm out being girl at a bar rather than my 1, which is interesting. Though, okay, I take that back. The rules are a 1. Not having your phone, that's a rule. Not looking at it for 90 minutes. So, but those were the parameters. I don't think once I'm in the space, I'm too focused on the rules that much.
Agree.
Yeah, more about the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope for anyone listening to this podcast that has not already come across the episodic content you put together, that they will find a way to check it out because it's so good. And I loved getting to screen it at the LA Film Festival. So I hope the episodes and the podcast are very kind of symbiotic and kind of driving people in both directions.
I hope so too. And thanks again for being a part of the making of it in such a profound way. That scene was so pivotal. And I love that space. It's magical. If anyone has ever not been there in LA, the First Congregational Church has the most beautiful organs you've ever seen. So I highly recommend checking it out. And Katherine, thanks so much for doing this. It's always amazing to talk to you. Such a bright light. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be selected to get to be part of the experiment. So thank you so much for spending time with me and giving me the opportunity. I really, really appreciated it.
Love to you. I'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Girl at a Bar channel on YouTube to see video episodes of the podcast and watch the Girl at a Bar scripted series. Thanks to Andrew Hollander for producing the song, Something I Can't Rearrange. You can check out the full version on all music platforms. Please visit girlatabar.com and bayarealyme.org for resources on Lyme disease.